I'm going to go ahead and get started. Well, excited for our AMA session today. My guest is Amandine Servain, VP of Marketing at Wunderkind. Amandine started her career in the fashion industry as a buyer and made her way into B2B marketing, where she's held several executive roles across companies like Experian, Cheetah Digital, Marigold, and now Wunderkind, which is a leader in the e-commerce enablement space. I'm excited to discuss her experience leading marketing across different industries and also see how she thinks the marketing function is evolving in the age of generative AI, plus discuss what her team has been doing when it comes to AI tool adoption. So thank you for joining me today, Amandine.
Hi, Len. Thank you for having me.
So I'm curious, you, like myself, did not start off in B2B marketing. So I would love to understand how your career evolved and how you ended up in the role you're in today.
Yeah, it was really by accident or by chance, depending how you see it. I'm French. I did all my university in France. Part of my cursus was studying marketing, but then I started my career in the fashion industry, in the fast fashion industry, in a French company, where I was in the buying department, buying fabrics and collection across the world. But I wanted to live in the US, and so I went looking for a job, and I ended up working for a B2B trade show. So that was my first entry into B2B instead of B2C, still in the fashion industry. And so I started to work on field marketing, events, organizing events, and promoting those events. And then I went back to France, find another job in the events industry again. But it was a B2B SaaS company with Experian. And so that's how I entered the world of SaaS B2B company. So more by opportunity, but it was it was a long time ago. It was 15 years ago. So it wasn't the way it is now. I mean, it moves so fast in like the last 5 years or even 10 years. I learned so much in the first couple of years working in a B2B SaaS environment. And a lot of things that I learned, I never learned at school because maybe now there is, but at that time, there was nothing at school that talked about B2B marketing. You could have classes around B2C, but never around B2B.
It's very true. I find that school is not optimized for real world for the most
Yes,
part.
I agree.
What about the B2B world did you like, and where have you kind of seen the biggest changes over the last 15 years?
Uh, it was such a it was such a different environment from what I knew because as a consumer, you know B2C because you consume goods. So you understand what's advertising for B2C because you're exposed to advertising for B2C. You understand retail for B2C because you're exposed to it. When you join B2B, you've never been exposed to like selling to another company. So that was, I think, the most interesting part is understanding what's the marketing and sales process in the B2B world versus marketing and sales process in the B2C. And then what I thought was um, the the thing that's changed the most is mostly related to technology, to be honest. When I started marketing, I was on premise. I'm probably a lot of people listening to that. I've never used on premise technology, but you had to be on premise. Um, and it changed so much over the year with the explosion of SaaS software. And now generative AI, which is the next phase. So that environment changed so much, and you always have to keep up with it, which I think is it's the most exciting and frightening part of it.
Yes, agreed. Marketing, I find, has been one of the organizations within the company that has had the most tech spread, meaning the marketing org might have 10, 15 tools and also a lot of specialization within the team. How do you think that's going to change with AI?
Uh, I think it's a good question. I think it's a big worry for people in marketing in general, depending on like which role we have. I see AI more as a Copilot for some of the specializations. So, and that's the phase we're in right now, is the Copilot phase. I see AI helping marketing specialists or taking over some of the marketing specialist tasks that are more like routine tasks that don't really involve too much of strategy around. I see also some of the tasks that are based on data-driven machine learning type of task being supported by all the technology that either we currently use or will be there in the near future, for sure. The one I haven't seen yet doing a great job at is on the creative side. I think creative right now on the AI side looked pretty robotic. I don't know what's the right word, but it doesn't look very human or doesn't look like it was made by a human. So I think the design team can be helped by AI, but they still have the opportunity to use their creative skills for sure.
Funny you mentioned the creative. There was actually, I think last week, an AI photography contest where people were submitting the best photos that they've done via AI. And the winner was a real photograph that someone submitted
that's
just
funny.
to show that humans still are better at the creative. So I thought that was pretty funny.
Yeah, cool.
One thing
that's
I was
true.
curious, I was curious about, you spent a lot of your career selling to other marketers, and marketers are both a discerning and, they know all the tricks. So what have you found most effective in and most not effective in selling to other marketers?
I guess it's well, first understanding what their goals. So what outcome are they looking for? Are they looking for a type of performance? Are they looking to achieve a certain like revenue growth? So really understanding your audience, your persona, and their goals. I think that's mostly generic to any function that you target, not just marketing. Then to your point, I think marketing now are way more savvy in technology than maybe they used to be a while ago. So I don't think you can sell just lousy functionality. You gotta be more precise into how you sell to marketers. Like when I buy something as a marketer, I dig deep into the technology now more than I was digging into the technology before, for sure. And then I'm thinking you also have to sell more than just beyond the sell, basically. You gotta sell also resources, industry insight, so they feel like they're supported, not only with the tool that they're buying, but also with the educational content that you can provide. So the way we use marketing is not only to sell the product, that's one thing, but we basically sell the concept, the outcomes, and the educational content that goes along.
That makes a lot of sense. Have you found any tools or technologies that's helped you figure out or act kind of as a co-pilot in determining what for each buyer they care about or what educational pieces they need at that time?
So we work with I don't know if I can quote names, so you tell me.
You can do names, yeah.
Okay,
No, totally.
okay, cool. So we work with 6sense as a technology, so that helps us understand the type of content our target audience is searching at a certain point of time. And so we can cater our outreach marketing ourselves based on the insight that we get from 6sense, which is very helpful. We're more relevant and more timely in our outreach. So that's definitely one I think B2B marketers should think about, is having a technology such as 6sense that can help them understand the content that is being searched by their buyer at a certain time, for sure. And then it's more like the traditional reading, the reading what they read. So making sure you're always like subscribed to all the publications that those people will read. So if they read, I don't know, like Retail Dive, I'm subscribed to all of those. So I read the article and I check like, are those articles the most liked? So I can look at what are the content that also those articles cover that we should make sure we cover, because that's a trending topic for sure. And then obviously we look at social media. So we're testing the new content on social media. Do we see social media content on, I don't know, identity resolution trending on social media? So we'll make sure we cover that content. Death of the third-party cookie, even though it's been dying for 5 years now, we'll make sure we cover that. Those are more traditional, but it's more the benchmarking that we do.
Yeah. The third-party cookie thing always cracks me up. It's like the thing that will never die, but we're going to continue to talk about its death and deprecation forever.
Yes, agreed.
You mentioned, Sixth Sense. I think of that very much in kind of the ABM world where they're really trying to hone in on for this individual or this company, what are the best things we can provide them? How have you seen the field of ABM evolve over the last 5 to 10 years?
I think a lot of companies do ABM without knowing they do ABM because they don't have a technology, and so they think they're not doing ABM. I think as long as you have a strategy that targets a certain type of account and you put or persona and put your resource against those accounts with the messaging that's crafted, you're actually doing ABM. You might not have technology that support, but at least you're spearfishing instead of like sending a wide net. That's how I see ABM. And that was ABM before we had all those technology in the past. So what has evolved is basically the technology that we now have that help us get those signals that we couldn't get in the past. So those technology help us be more timely, maybe more relevant and precise in our messaging. And also they help us targeting our advertising, for example, against accounts that are searching a certain key type of keywords that we couldn't target in the past.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, makes sense. And, I know you are a very data-driven marketer. How does your team, how does that kind of manifest in terms of how you run your team, how you measure KPIs and performance, attribution, all of that?
We track a lot of data, probably too much data that we actually use, but I think that's kind of the marketer's disease, is to track too many data points.
Yes.
And then we're like, what am I going to do with that data? So we track the traditional like performance engagement type of metric, but the team is really measured on impact on the revenue, which is the end goal. So tracking the top of the funnel engagement obviously help us fine tune how we do marketing, with the end goal in mind of influencing or creating new revenue for the sales team.
Got it. Now, I want to shift a little bit towards your approach to AI tools and generative AI in particular. When these tools really started coming out in full force, what were the initial steps you took to, evaluate and then integrate them into your team's workflows?
I started to look at first, what are the challenges that we have? Not like going after, let's find an AI tool without like understanding what that AI tool, do we have a pain point first? What pain point is it? And then trying to find a tool that can solve that pain point. It could be AI, it could not be AI. And so when we found AI tool, such as Tofu, that was solving a pain point, most of the time we did POC first, just to see like, is it actually solving the pain point that we think it's solving? Is the team adopting the tool? Because I think one of the hardest thing with technology in general, outside of the capability of the technology, is the adoption. So there's been many cases where we bought a tool, a technology that could be extremely performant, but by lack of adoption, we stopped the contract a year after. So adoption, training, testing with a proof of concept, if that's possible, and then scaling the tool.
What were some of the pain points that you had identified where you found AI tools solve the problem, and what were some that they don't yet solve the problem?
I think we've got some of the tool that we bought ended up being duplicates. So when we bought it for one purpose, And we bought another one for another purpose. And then with time, using the tool, digging deeper into the technology and the features, and also those tools evolving and launching new features, we ended up with tools that were overlapping. So we made the decision on which one actually covered the widest range of what we need, and then we moved the second one. So that's for sure one of the things that we've done, because we had a little bit of that AI frenzy, even though we were trying to solve pain and challenges, like, oh, let's buy AI. So that we've done. Tool that where we were really dissatisfied, not so much because in the creative side. The creative team went and tried to find tool that could cover, help them with efficiency, scale their design, and we never got to a point where we had something super good or to the level of our brand guidelines, at least. I think it also depends on like how is your brand. So our brand in Wunderkind is very strong and strikeful. There's a lot of like colorful elements and graphics and characters. And so when we try to do AI design, it just like dumb it down a little bit. So we were not like really happy with it. So we stopped.
Yeah, we found the same thing on the design side, especially for B2B. Unless you're doing something in the e-commerce space where you can take a catalog of photos and swap things out, it's just not able to match the brand.
Yeah, agree. So that's probably, one of the scenarios where we were the least satisfied with using AI.
What types of things have you found you have purchased but have not been used? And I guess why do you think that the usage has not happened?
A purchase tool that was used by sometimes two teams, and so sales and marketing in general. And so we saw the value, but the adoption wasn't there on the sales side. And so we stopped using it. I saw you were using UserGem, for example. That wasn't one of them. So we saw like, wow, that's a great value. But then no one picked it up. So we're like, stopped it. We'll probably maybe try another round. Sometimes it's just like the first time might not be the right time. And maybe you got to take, I think, baby step in general also when you adopt technology. So when you adopt too many technologies at once, you just like lose people. Like it's too much, it might be too many changes at once. And that was that time where we had Tofu, Jasper, UserGem, and 6sense. So there was, I think, too many technology to adopt at once.
Yeah. One thing I think we're also seeing is that sometimes new technology forces workflow change, and people are we're creatures of habit. We like to do the same things. We understand how to do our job and our workflows. Trying to flip that on its head is sometimes challenging. Have you seen that among your team of when you're trying to force a workflow change, it's hard to adopt a tool?
Yeah, for sure. It's hard to change people, to your point, people's habits of like, I've been doing that for so long and it works. Why would I change? Even though it might not change like the outcome, but the operational efficiency will be better. Like that's probably one criteria that people don't look at a lot. Is like maybe you're not going to get more engagement, but you're going to be more efficient, which is for me a win, because instead of spending, I don't know, 5 hours, you're going to spend one, and that way you can do something else. And that something else will bring an additional maybe engagement or revenue.
Yeah. It's interesting too on the kind of KPIs of efficiency. I think a lot of the areas where AI tools are really strong today is in things like content, some elements around workflow, but a lot of things where the KPI measurement is not necessarily as tangible as something like, oh, we generated this lead or this revenue or things like that. And I think that the people are somewhat threatened because it's either an agency or an in-house person who's measured by, I wrote 8 articles or I, did 17, LinkedIn ads. How do you think that changes with AI? Do you think we rely less on the humans? Do you think the humans have a shifting role? I'm actually not sure what's going to happen.
uh, I think if it's tasks that are either boring or painful, people adopt the technology pretty fast, and they're less maybe like They don't want to fight back so much. For the things that people enjoy doing, I think having a technology that takes over might be harder to for those people, because that's part of their job that they actually enjoy doing. But in general, I think everything that we adopted, we also adopted because the organization of the team has changed. So like a lot of organization, marketing is always the one that suffers when you've got budget cut. Or so every time we had like, okay, you've got more to do with the same amount of people, then you got to find a way to do it. And I think those technology are probably easier to adopt at that time, rather than when everything's working, or that you have a big team and people are not maybe at 100% of capacity. They might not be as eager to adopt a technology that's going to do, like you say, take some part of their job.
Yeah, that is spot on. I would say the phrase I hear most commonly right now is we're trying to do more with less, and I don't see that changing. And it's
No.
actually potentially the perfect timing for AI tools, because teams can then adopt the tools before they get bloated again. And so you can maintain a lean team, but let them do significantly more. I'm curious, was your approach when you start evaluating tools, is it more bottoms up where you have your team identify pain points and then go out searching for tools they think they can solve the problem and bring it together? Or is it more top down where you and the other executives go and, search for different tools and then share it with the team?
It's been more top down. Yeah, more top down. And also it's been more like referred by. So someone comes and say, oh, I've heard of that tool. And someone not even in the marketing organization or even outside of Wunderkind. And so we evaluate the tool, and then we look at, does that solve a pain points? That's when it comes from someone that referred the tool. And when it doesn't come from someone that referred the tool, it's the top down. I do an exercise on like quarterly basis where I send a survey and say, tell me your pain points. And then from that, have you ever, like, do you know a tool that could solve it? Yes, no. Have you had a chat with someone in that company? Yes, no. And then we take that, and then we have people in the team that, because we don't have a marketing technologist, that's probably a role that's going to happen. Like someone that's just mission is to evaluate tools outside of marketing ops. So everyone take a chunk of it. So if you're in content, you're going to take the content stream. If you're in design, you're going to take the design stream. I think people usually are pretty eager to look outside of their current technology and see what else they could find that could make their job easier. So that's how we work. I do like a round of survey every 3 months. Tell me what's your pain point. Is there a technology out there that can solve your pain point? And if there is, does that fit with all our tech stack? I think that's also the limitation when you get a technology, is making sure it fits. Because you already have legacy technology that you can't remove all at once. So you need to make sure whatever you bring in is actually going to fit with whatever exists. And once we've done that evaluation, and if we've got the budget, then, like I said, we try to do a POC, and then we scale.
I love that approach of doing quarterly surveys. I think I'm going to steal that from you.
Yeah, because you're not in the nitty-gritty of the task. Sometimes I'm not even aware of like how long does it take to do X, Y, and Z. So, and there's so much like startups out there that have very niche technology that can solve some of that tedious work, that definitely, if it comes from the team, that's super helpful.
I think also just giving space for people to voice their opinions. I think oftentimes in meetings where that's not the topic of conversation, or even in one-on-ones, they don't feel comfortable bringing things like that up. But when you make a space specifically for that, people are much more forthcoming. And that's really a great way to pull out things like that, those insights from the team when you're not in the nitty-gritty.
Yeah, agree.
One of the things that comes up over and over again when it comes to AI tools is really ensuring alignment with brand voice, messaging, tone, that kind of thing. How have you approached that, and how have you seen tools be able to either hit the mark or not?
Yeah, so we always look, when it comes on the copywriting side of it, making sure that you can ingest all your brand voice within the platform that we select. So when we work with Tofu, that was one of the things we looked at. Is the content, the copy, going to be authentic to Wunderkind, or is it just going to be another ChatGPT? No offense to ChatGPT, but like nothing's authentic. Like it could be written, it could be on the 20,000 other websites. So that's super important also because we have a strong visual and we want our tone of voice to match the visual. So making sure you could ingest your tone of voice for sure. That's something we looked at. We also work mostly with closed AI tool. So we're not in the open, less in the open AI and more in the closed AI environment. So we can also control the privacy of what we feed the AI tool. That's also very important to us. And then we always have someone that reviews. Like nothing goes out, to be honest, without the big piece of content. So some of it will let go, but the bigger piece of content is always reviewed by a content editor.
Yeah, you mentioned at the beginning this concept of AI is still very much in the co-pilot phase. I mean, I guess over time, do you see it evolving to be more autopilot, or do you think in the future it's still always going to remain co-pilot with human oversight?
I think it will be a marketing agent type and then become autonomous marketing in the future. I think it's a little stressful. I think it's the sentiment of like let it go. You know, I mean, you're a marketer as well. It's like it's your thing, it's your baby. It technology taking over. You might not understand everything behind the technology, and it's like you gotta test it, making sure it's good, and then scale and let it go and let it run. I think it's that fear of like, can I let it go? But it will. And some of the thing I like, I'd love for the team to have more of that marketing agent type of technology that will. We do have automation, but it's automation in email marketing, nurtures, etc. I'd love to have a full automation that's like clicked on an email, push directly into an email marketing sequence, create a post, but like the whole circle. And so you start maybe like it's the crawl, walk, run. Like you start with like maybe a tiny campaign. If you see that works, then you scale.
Where in that world, where do you think the humans play the critical roles?
I think it's like there's the strategy first. Like I don't think, at least not right now, the tool will build the strategy. Like the concept and the strategy will still come from a human. The control will still be a human. Like you'll still have someone controlling the authenticity of what's going out. And then even if you have tools that help you with analytics, you'll still have someone that needs to read them, understand them, digest, and then take action on them as well. Like what's the next level?
Yeah, I think from our perspective, one of the things I always say is I still think in the future the humans are going to need to do the creative and the strategic. And maybe at some point some of the creative will be offset by AI, but I think the dream is that you create the brand, the messaging, the core elements of the marketing materials, and then some anchor pieces of content. And then AI can even help you identify your ICP. And when somebody in that ICP takes an action, it triggers an entire workflow
Yeah,
and
exactly.
then helps you measure and helps you iterate. I think that's the dream. I think we'll get there.
Yeah, not having like those static work like journeys that we all build because we think it's the best journey. But having AI based on machine learning decide what's the next best action
Yes.
without being in an actual static journey.
And next best, you mentioned before, a lot of what you have to do is education. It's how do we educate our buyers, not only on our products, but on the industry, the benefits, the things like that. So if the next best piece of content doesn't exist, well, then create it and create it
Mm-mm.
based off of all the insights that you think that this person needs to see. So that's the world that I'm really excited for, where it's almost real time bespoke content creation based off of actions, based off of behavioral data.
Yeah, I don't know when,
How
maybe in the next 5 years. I mean, it goes so fast. So
It's crazy how fast things are going right now. How has your team measured impact of some of these new AI tools?
We look at, well, depending on the function of that tool, most of them are like top of the funnel. So we look at the improvement in engagement, basically. So when we use Tofu for ABM purpose, we look at, as that increase our open rate, click-through rates, do we see those metrics going up? And we always start with like, say, you take a small campaign, test it, works, okay, scale. And then we can like roll that across all the campaign that we want to have personalization on. So yeah, those are the ones that we currently really track, is that improvement between before AI on the personalization side and post AI after personalization. Does that increase our engagement?
Do you run A/B tests when you're doing any of this? Or are you tracking baseline and then improvement?
Yeah, we do A/B test.
Makes sense. Are
Not too
there,
many, because when you have too many tests, then you're like, which one is too
to your
doesn't make
earlier
sense.
point of marketers tracking too much data,
Yeah, exactly.
not useful. There's certain amounts of data that are useful and certain amounts that are beyond utility.
I agree.
What would your advice be for kind of mid-level or senior marketers who are looking to start incorporating AI workflows into their day-to-day today?
I think similar to what I said around like why you buy AI is find your pain points instead of buying AI because it's the buzzword. Um, and when you look at workflow, like I said, making sure you're probably using other technology. So how does that fit with the rest of your technology? Because you don't want to create a tool that's a silo outside of your tech stack that you already have. So we've got, so Sixtet, for example, is integrated with all of our, with our email marketing automation platform. It's integrated with our ad channel. It's integrated with our Salesforce instance. So it can't be of a thing in a silo that someone else. I don't want to have a tool that I have to look at reporting in another tool again. Because I think the issue also is the data scattered everywhere. It's then impossible to actually have more of a cohesive view of your performance. So I want to make sure all the tools can integrate. So I have one only interface to look at performance when I can.
Yes, tool sprawl has created a lot of problems, including data silos. That also feels like a good pain point for AI to address. I'm not sure if you've looked at tools there, but I feel like I would love to see something that can really help collect data from all of these different places and then give you that unified view, but specifically for marketers, specifically for marketing performance indicators and workflows. Have you
Yeah,
seen anything like that?
because when we're looking at attribution platform, and so those are like really specific to revenue attribution or uh, pipeline attribution, but none of them look at efficiency. So they wouldn't tell me,
Mm.
well, you use that or that. That means you saved X number of hours on your team. So, and yes, looking at revenue pipeline is important. But looking at how efficient you are is also very important because that's efficiency or lack of efficiency equal cost. So that I never found.
Yeah, I haven't either. If you do, let me know. Curious to get your take on the interplay between marketing and sales and kind of how that's shifting. I've seen over the last few years, if you ask, even today, if you ask a marketing team or a go-to-market team, do the SDR, BDR sit under marketing or sales? It's kind of 50-50. But I'm seeing a bigger shift now in terms of marketing owning more of the funnel and really taking top middle. How are you seeing that evolve? And I guess, how do you think that marketers can align best with sales, especially given kind of tools that are passing the leads from one to the other?
I've worked in organization where SDR or PDAs, however the organization is called, worked in marketing and sometimes was in sales. So I think it doesn't really matter for me, as long as everyone's aligned on what's the common goal, what are the common What are our targets? Who are we targeting? Which ICP, which persona? How you get the SDR organization involved into a marketing campaigns, so they don't like just what they become an actor of the campaign rather than just an executor, or just like they see the data coming but they have no clue what that is.
Yes.
And they also don't know how to really act on it because they haven't been part of the ideation of the campaign. So I think that's also benefits of having ABM and having technology as well, is that gives transparency also on what's happening, so the team can see what works, what doesn't, in terms of marketing campaigns that we run. We all align at Wunderkind. We've got in our other organization at work. We had a system that we call the pod, could be called anything. So we've got an SDR, an account executive, and an ABM marketer that meet on regular basis. They look at what account are we going to target, how are we going to target them. Marketing brings idea, concept of campaigns. They also bring all the insight that we can collect from the technology that we've got. So we let them know like accounts that have visited our website, often intent keyword that we are seeing against account ABC. So we can help them prioritize their account and also cater the messaging within their outreach. So I think that having that collaboration and transparency really help sales and marketing working together and be less of a marketing versus sell type of organization.
Yes, I think that's exactly right. I love the concept of a pod where you bring in one from each level of the funnel and then can kind of pass insights along and make sure you're getting also the reverse feedback. I think that's one thing that I've seen sometimes marketing teams not do as well, is marketing is oftentimes feeding the sales teams insights based off of your workflows and your campaigns, but the reverse is often harder of how do you actually get sales to feedback insights from the field or from the late stage conversations to marketing. How have you guys facilitated that at Wunderkind?
During those pod meeting, we ask them like, what's your feedback from the field? What conversation do you have? Is there any new pain point that's you uncover? So then we make we have many pods. So obviously we don't want to focus on just like something that could be just not like a general fact, but just something that's unique. But we've got that for sure that we do. We've got
Number 3 in this innings.
Some of the SDR that join some of those campaign ideation. That way they also can come with like ideas of content and give their feedback to the marketing team. But to be honest, the pod structure is the best one that we have because we're super close to the sales organization rather than it's marketing in general and then it's the sales. So we do create more of that collaboration and feedback loop. And same, we have surveys. So every quarter, there's a survey that says, tell me what works, what doesn't, what do you want to do better? Like anything that we don't cover, or things that we cover too much, or the data that we share, did you actually understand or have time to digest that data? Or do you have like a data overload and you're not like even understanding which data point is important versus which is just things you shouldn't look at.
I like that. I like that structure a lot. It does feel like it's best to facilitate kind of the feedback loop 360 degrees.
Yeah, agree.
Well, we're about at time, so I have one last question for you. So the audience here is other marketers, and I'm always curious to know where you get your information. So I know a lot comes from word of mouth and referrals, but are there any blogs, podcasts, websites, sources where you go to look for new technologies or stay up to date on all things marketing?
That's a good question because I'm always like looking for like where I always struggle to find the one that's like legit because there's like so much blogs and so much podcasts and so much YouTube channels. So it's hard. I'm a part of a community that's called Exit 5. That's a B2B community.
Oh, cool.
And so that community you can post. And so I usually post, and like when I'm looking for a recommendation, I'm like, can someone help me find blah, blah, blah. And it's a very like friendly, open community. So I get that from there. That's a referral, but within a community. And then, yeah, I'm looking more at, I read a bunch of venture capital newsletters. So I try to like subscribe and see where they invest. And that way I also
smart.
can see like, okay, oh, that investment, maybe that's worth looking into it. So that's usually how I do it.
That's very smart. And I love the community aspect. I had a friend of mine who has been an HR leader for a very long time, had done this poster on how community is so much more impactful than mentorship. And I definitely agree. It's the wisdom of the masses and the crowds who are current practitioners and also looking at similar things. So you can truly crowdsource insights. And I find that that's the best for me as well.
Yeah, I agree. It's and also most of those communities, they're very like they mean well. So I think usually when you start you join a community, you're like, are they going to want to help me or not? Like, but most of them, like, even if you have like competitor within the community, that happens. There's never that sentiment of like people not wanting you as a person, not you, the marketer at that company, to succeed. So those are the one that I just mentioned. Existify is pretty good.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Amandine. This has been extremely helpful and insightful, and look forward to continuing to work with you and your team.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone, for joining. See you next time.
Bye.